You are listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello, my name is Dan Bobian, and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm ecstatic that you're listening. This episode is proudly sponsored by Northbound Smokehouse and Brew Pub. This friendly neighborhood brew pub has been featured on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives twice. Equipped with 2 smokers in their kitchen, a rotating menu of beer made on site, a full bar, and a killer patio. Whether you need food, beer, a cocktail, or good times, there's a reason to stop in at Northbound. Located in South Minneapolis, just a block and a half from the 38th Light Rail Station. I really want to thank you all for listening to my show. The other day, I got a notification from Spotify that a One Pint Stand has gone over 10,000 streams and downloads. I think that is quite the milestone for just a little teeny tiny little podcast in flyover country, Minnesota. And that doesn't happen without listeners like you. So I truly appreciate you telling other people about it and taking the time to listen to this podcast. It means so much. On this episode, I sat down with Chip Walton, a content creator for RahrBSG and one of the hosts of Chop and Brew, a fantastic YouTube channel that focuses on home brewing. Chip has been a part of the Minnesota craft beer industry for longer than I have been writing about it, and so he has a tremendous wealth of knowledge about many aspects of craft beer. So let's head out to the Black Stack Brewing Tap Room for my interview with Chip Walton from RahrBSG and Chop and Brew. Cheers. Welcome to another on-location episode of a One Pint Stand. My name is Dan Bobian, and I'm here with Chip Walton.
Whoop, whoop.
Chip, you are one of the people that I just associate with Minnesota craft beer.
So weird because I'm not from here.
Which is funny because you're from Alabama, correct?
Right, and I moved here more recently, or the most recent place I lived was Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So it is kind of funny that I'm fairly ingrained, and when I think about moving, I'm like, we'll probably never move. Like,
yeah,
our network's here, anyway. So yeah, that's funny to hear that to some extent.
Yeah.
And it's weird to be on this side of the microphone.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this beer won't go as fast because I'm going to be the one having to talk. Usually I'm the one with like, glasses are empty, and everybody's like, well, it's because we've been doing all the talking.
Yeah, that's fun. So do you want to tell people, I think I first met you when you were with Summit.
Okay.
Doing a lot of their social media and marketing.
Right.
Do you want to kind of give us kind of like the little quick version of your illustrious resume and just kind of talk about kind of some of your touch points with local Minnesota craft beer?
Yeah, so I started as a news writer, a broadcast producer, writing all the stuff that anchors say in Alabama, and then in Austin. So I had this like video production, news production kind of background that more or less brought us up to the Twin Cities as well. Then I got burned out on that. I had been a home brewer since 2007.
Okay.
So moving up here is about 2008. So I was only about a year into homebrewing as a hobby when we moved up here.
Okay.
Got burned out on news and got this awesome opportunity from Northern Brewer, who I just met the people I needed to know through other people I knew. And they just built a job for me. They basically like, we want you to take your TV, your video production skills, your scripting, bringing everything to life. And the main thrust was to do like, remember DVDs? The instructional DVDs that came with your like starter kit.
Yeah, I think I have one of those somewhere in my basement.
But that really quick like ballooned into doing this thing called Brewing TV that was supposed to be more of like the vodcast is what we showed, because there wasn't really a version of this thing happening.
Yeah.
The basic brewing guys were kind of doing it, but we were taking it more on location. We were getting into people's basements. That sounds super creepy.
That's right.
Home brewers' basements. And yeah, that is kind of what started my trajectory of where I am now, where basically everything I've done for the last 15 years is either video, beer, or both. The only stint really outside of that is a chunk that I did on American Public Media, in downtown St. Paul. So it went Northern Brewer from like 2010 to 13, doing all their video projects, traveling the country. We could talk more about it, but it was this lightning in a bottle kind of moment for homebrewing, that we were at the right place at the right time with the camera to capture it. And then did Summit from 13 to 16.
Okay.
Then I got this, strangely enough, like I had always been obsessed with the Splendid Table and got an opportunity to be their web producer, and would have kept that job for life because like I could walk to the light rail a block away from it, go in, super kind of cool situation until COVID happens and no one's donating to public radio anymore. So I got laid off in the summer of 2020, and what else was happening during COVID is people were homebrewing again. So Northern Brewer now looking for a video person again to do kind of like the 2.0 version of what I had done the first time, which was more like online classes with a paywall. Basically the same thing that used to be a DVD showing up in a sleeve.
Right.
Now we're doing online courses on everything from the techniques, all grain, extract, brew in a bag, all the way to like a profile of each ingredient, malt, hops.
Yeah.
Long story short, so then within all of that, since the first time I left Northern Brew, I've been doing Chop and Brew. I basically took the concept of brewing TV, and people were like really upset when me, Mike, and Jake, the guys who pretty much produced it, when we kind of all left Northern Brewer about the same time, and people just, there was a gap. There was like a big hole in that content. So I just started Chop and Brew as trying to carry that torch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's never been as frequent. I mean, there's hundreds. I don't know if there's hundreds. I shouldn't say hundreds, but there's a lot of episodes.
Thousands.
Over the 13 years, 2012 into 13. So 12, 13 years. It's just never been as official feeling. It's felt more like someone's blog, someone's passion project, whereas Brewing TV was backed by Northern Brewers, basically kind of the marketing.
It was really polished as well.
Yeah.
Like had that professional feel.
And it felt that was
not to say that Chop and Brew doesn't.
Oh, it definitely does not.
But it has more of a kind of like organic kind of little engine that could.
Well, there's just the difference of like Brewing TV until this one weird random moment where I hopped in front of the camera because I had to one week. It was me behind the camera, Mike and Jake in front, and it felt more like a Discovery Channel show or a Food Network show where two hosts, lavalier. I'm kind of controlling the scene from behind, but Chop and Brew's never been that way. The first couple of years, I was a little more like, all right, I'm going to mic you two up and you're going to brew, but it really just got to where I'm like, it's Chip in front of the camera again. We're going to interview someone, or I'm going to shoot GoPro of me brewing and then talk over it later, you know.
Okay.
Kind of like my friend Don Osborne, Don O, kind of like more his style, but he's even less. This is a dude who's like, I'm not doing B-roll and narrate. He just shoots everything real time.
I've watched.
Yeah.
I've watched his videos.
You know, he lets the work show, like warts. I said warts like a true homebrew.
Hey-o.
He's like, you know, if something doesn't go right, I'll just have to explain that as part of the process instead of, for me, if it doesn't go right, I would probably try to like make it look better, and then it would all be about like narrating it correctly after the fact. But so that's kind of me. I'm just like beer, homebrewing, video, multimedia, and like you said, I'm kind of like a lot of that has always been based here in St. Paul for the most part, where I live. The beauty of Brewing TV and Chop and Brew is the traveling part was epic. I mean, this was, to skip ahead on a couple questions I know you had, but like 2010 when we're starting this show, I mean, like Homebrew's got like double-digit growth, like up into the 30% growth. I mean, this is when people were really getting obsessed with beer, but there wasn't a brewery on every corner yet. You had a bunch of reasons why people were coming to it, and it was just like, it was just kind of bonkers. Like you'd go to National Homebrew Conference, which is something that as I started brewing, I never thought I'd go to one of these. But then once you start working at one of the largest online retailers in a hobby, you end up at these things all the time on the company's dollar. So we would go to these NHCs and like, it was just bonkers. Like the scene itself, the intensity, how big it was growing so quickly, but then even like our role in it, feeling kind of like low-key rock stars. You'd show up and people would just be like, it's Chip, or it's the Cobra, because Jake did one episode as the Cobra at Surly, and now he can't ever not be called the Cobra, even 15 years later by all the pro brewers that we kind of birthed through that home brewing. I mean, it doesn't happen as often anymore, but it's nice when you get like a pro brewer that's like, oh man, I used to watch all your shows, and that's how I started home brewing, and that's how I became the brewer that bought this and made this brewery. So you don't hear that as much anymore.
Yeah.
Because we're old.
I think it's pretty. Yes, that's time. Time does fly when you're having fun. I remember when the homebrew conference was here, and I remember seeing you all over the place. But one of the cool things about that was like, on club night, which is, I think if I were ever to build a time machine, which I can't, because
let's go.
I have no mathematic ability whatsoever, but I would love to go back to that club night in Minneapolis.
Is that the 2017 or 2010?
The 2017 one.
Okay, yeah, much more legit.
Yep,
fun.
And like seeing like some of the local homebrew clubs that kind of brought us like the Falling Knife and Van, and like I think that's really neat, and some of the best beer anybody could ever have in an evening. Beer, mead, and everything in between.
Abstract Artemis, like stage diving onto a dinosaur.
Very much
inflatable dinosaur.
Very much like that, yeah. But I thought like, in that moment, and then I went to that one, and I went to the following summer in Portland for the homebrew conferences, and I just thought like, what an awesome thing that this hobby has become since it started in the late 70s.
Right. And that's
and not to say that people weren't doing it before, but like
for real.
There's a reason why beer in this country is so good, and I think it all goes back to homebrewing.
That's why it's kind of tough to see what's happened. I mean, there's still homebrewing, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, like what people are doing. But homebrewing as like big homebrew, capital H homebrewing is really, as you know, I mean, there are no homebrew cons now. They tried to make it a little piece of GABF either last year or 2 years ago, and that didn't fly very well. So I just got an email reminder today from AHA, American Homebrew Association. It's like, the Homebrew Competition Awards are coming up. And I was like, oh, they're just live streaming awards from, I don't even know, like a tap room or a computer. Like, it's no longer the capstone of a 3-day event. It's just happening independently. So AHA is also broken off from the Brewers Association, has got like an actual non-profit, whatever you call it. So they're kind of like at a rebirth, hopefully, a turning point.
I hope,
So, and that just happened, I believe, in the last, like, I would even say this year.
Yeah.
So, like, Drew Beecham and Julia Hertz, like, there's a lot of people on the board that I think are the people we've always wanted to talk for the hobby, instead of it just being kind of like, I won't say the stepchild, but just like the forgotten child of the Brewers Association. It clearly has bigger things that they're dealing with all the time.
Right.
So that was kind of ironic, because the the Brewers Association came out of the Homebrew Association in the 80s or whenever that was. So it's just weird to watch it kind of collapse a little bit.
Yeah, I hope that's not the word that we use for that. But it certainly does feel that way. We'll get into a lot of that, but I want to kind of talk a little bit about, so you said you started homebrewing shortly before you moved to Minnesota in 2007?
Yep.
What was, and I should mention that, we are at Blackstack Brewing in St. Paul. The beer cathedral, as I like to call it, because of the ginormous. I think this used to be like a canning plant or something.
Something super industrial.
And it's, they've got like the railroad cars in the back. And this has always been kind of a unique place to go for a beer. They are very much kind of the forefront leaders in hazy IPAs, pastry stouts, and a lot of really interesting sours. And of late, I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, they've really kind of been putting out a lot more
lagers.
Yeah.
I know that I'm drinking a Mexican lager that was brewed in collaboration with Brixworth, which is kind of like their, I don't want to say like
That's their little brother.
sister,
little
brother
cousin.
brewery,
No,
cousin.
I mean, it's definitely the same.
But it's like, yeah, it's from the
posse.
same family.
Yeah. It's funny to collaborate with something else you own.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they are separate, but
Right.
all in all, it is like, they're basically like, we couldn't make enough of this for Brixworth because people kept drinking it, so we need to make it here and then send them their own kegs back.
Yeah, which is kind of a
problem to
because
have.
Minnesota alcohol laws, but and you're drinking the French Pilsner,
Yes.
and so it's kind of fun. It's kind of
Slopes.
fun to see slopes, which I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you ever brewed a French Pilsner?
No, but coincidentally, that's why I got it in case we got onto this topic. I actually don't really brew that much anymore, but when I do, it's always because of something kind of like, oh, what? Like, I'm not that guy that brews the same pale ale 3 times a year trying to perfect it. Like, I usually only brew something once, maybe twice if I really like it. And this beer has been my favorite beer probably for like 2 years. And and when you dig into something called a French style pils, a lot of people are like, oh, are we doing this thing where we're just naming a style? But as it turns out, it's a little bit more of a style than people kind of thought. It was an awesome article in Zymergy that kind of helped like legitimize it.
Yeah.
It's not groundbreaking, but it's a French Pils malt, if you can get it. French hops. And theirs has corn. A lot of the ones you'll see have corn, but it's not as essential.
Okay.
I really think the idea is it's like a showcase for French hops. So I lucked out and know someone who works with Hop France. Leslie, shout out. And she hooked me up, put me in touch with them, and they sent us 100 grams, if you can do the math. Mr. No Math. It's about 3 ounces.
That's 8 tons. 8 tons if you're if you're looking at it.
No,
Wait,
we got
I
100.
forgot to carry the 2. Hold on.
We got 100 grams of a bunch of different varieties. Stristle Spelt, which is fairly known, but then all these kind of newer ones like Elixir, Amorous, Barb, Rouge. So yeah, I will be brewing, and this is what I kind of do a lot lately is I'll try to find 2 or 3 people that are willing to brew not the same recipe, but like something within the wheelhouse of that style. So last summer we did a rice lager project where Don Osborne brewed basically Toki, the recipe from Arbiter, straight off their brew sheet.
And that's an amazing beer.
It is. We'll talk about rice lagers eventually when you ask what's hot and not. Rice lagers are hot.
Yes.
I brewed something out of Dave Carpenter's book that was a little bit more of a Japanese style lager with like Sriracha Ace, kind of taking it a little bit like, I wouldn't say fruity, but spicier. And then another friend of ours made Toki, but like 3 ABV points higher. So it was kind of like Imperial Toki a little bit. So yeah, with the French Pilsner concept, like I would like to brew what Cyrus here will give me as far as the roadmap to brewing it.
Okay.
And then in the Zymergy article, there's like 6 other recipes. So Don might do one, someone else might do one, and then I like looking at it that way because you can see this is all the things this style can be versus like a lot of people have a hard time in a situation like this, and this is where like that podcast, Brewlosophy, knows what they're doing most is like we change a factor or it's a this versus that. I'm not big on that just because like in the end I don't want 2 beers that taste super the same. You're like, it's a little different because it was English yeast versus American, or we dry hopped it a day later. I'd rather get kind of like a bird's eye view of a style if we're going to bother brewing it instead of just going to buy it anyway.
Yeah. I think there's so much, that's the fun part about beer is finding, because I started getting into craft beer around the time 2006 was when I went to my first craft brewery, and then I started really enjoying it, but I didn't understand how beer was made. And I think it's like any fascination or hobby. I think the more you get into something, you want to read about it, you want to learn about it. And it feels like beer is one of those things where you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you have time for, and you could still, there's still more to learn. And I think anything like that, cooking, art, all all of those things are fascinating to me because I just love, kind of the metaphor or the, not metaphor. Is it a metaphor? Metaphor of peeling back an onion, layers of an onion, and just like, whoa, there's more here.
See, I find that frustrating.
Interesting, yeah.
When I started brewing, I really thought, I had read Charlie Papazian's book like maybe one time through, so I was like, all right, I feel comfortable, I shouldn't say confident, in doing this. But man, I kind of was like thinking like once you get the basics, you know how to do it.
Yeah.
But then to your point, I mean, a lot of people like this part, but to me it's almost anxiety inducing where you're like, oh, but a 10 degree temperature difference in fermentation does this instead of this. And oh, but what, that's where all the factors that can be fun.
Yeah.
And give you more control. But I think it's more because like I started as an extract brewer, so just the syrup instead of the all grain. And I just wanted it to be, kind of easy. Yeah. I just wanted it to be a little more like, and that's how it happens. Instead of like, oh my gosh, now I have to really run this through a calculator of some sort and this and this. So I call it brewer's anxiety. I get it a lot more because I never brewed the same way twice. Like I'll do a brew in a bag and then I'll do, oh, it's nice weather, so I'll go do it in the garage, all grain. And it's fun, but the byproduct of it is I don't have a real great system. Yeah. In my mind, more of a mental system than the physical pieces. Whereas Don Osborne, for example, just like he brews, like he could do it with his eyes closed. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this over here. I'm going to take, if there's a little left over, I'm going to take it inside, condense it a little, bring it out to the main work. And you're just like, I wish. That's kind of like my dream is to have something. And I don't think the answer is equipment either. I think the answer to me has actually been like less equipment and streamlining, because all those years at Northern Brewer, man, you get all the like stuff that's been red tagged,
every toy.
Yeah, because somebody didn't actually know how to just put it together, and you're like, oh, you just screw this, and then you're like, can I have that now? So I ended up with just like tons of like plate chillers and tilts and all this stuff. To your point, the fun part of it, if that's where you're trying to take it. Yeah. But I was like, I'm really just trying to do the minimal amount to make beer that tastes good. Yeah. And that proves whatever I set out to do with that one. What was it? Smoked beer? Oh, well, you can taste the smoked malt. Was it Kvike at 100 degrees? Oh, crazy that worked, Yeah. So yeah, I've tried to streamline over the last 2 or 3 years to like, I'm back on my stovetop, which is how most people start.
Yeah.
You start on the
so
stove.
You've kind of come full circle.
Yeah, I'm back.
Do you remember what was it that inspired you to homebrew? Was it a trip to a brewery? Was it like, something you heard about? Did you have a friend who was doing it? And you're like, hey, what are these bottles in your fridge here? There's no label. And you take it. It's like, whoa, this
don't
is
drink
delicious.
Don't drink that.
Wait, no.
I mean, I can't remember which of these happened first, but I was in Austin, like. There was beer in a lot of places that there had not been in Alabama. Like, you moved to Austin, I was just like, there's a place called the Ginger Man with like 100 taps of nothing, like, made macro or domestic. I was just like, what? That is wild. So there was a combination. Basically, I was doing like a series of alcohol-related, beer-related stories for Fox 7 where I worked. And I did a couple profiles on breweries, which is how I really got to like, oh, this is a cool network. Like these people all seem to know each other, very passionate. But one of those stories I asked the bosses at the station, I was like, can I do one on home brewing? Because I think that's how a lot of these brewers get started from what they're telling me. So I went with the photographer and myself, and we documented the better part of like a brew day. And the guy was very TV savvy. He was brewing, but then he was also bottling so that you could get everything in one shoot instead of being like, so can you come back 3 weeks from now? And like, no, this piece will aired 3 days from now. Yeah. So I remember that being the first time I was like, I left that and told, I think his name was Sonny, was the photographer that I was working with. It's like, I think I'm going to do that. Like, I think I'm interested enough in beer, like you said. I want to know the nuts and bolts a little more. And that guy was doing extracts. So I was like, that looks easy. I didn't know it was that easy, Come to find out, it's easy, but it's not the best version of beer. So that's why people pretty quickly move into all grain if they're really serious about it. It's not something you have to do. But yeah, like both kind of like the origin story of both homebrewing and kind of this joy of documenting and talking to people in those elements, in those cramped back rooms or in the huge tank rooms, kind of all come from that opportunity that I had at that time, like being like younger 20s.
Yeah.
Just like running wild, had everything, just everybody who wanted to talk. And at that point, everybody wanted to talk because it was you could tell we were on the cusp of like the start. And me starting in 07, it's probably even like happened before then. It just really got on my map.
Yeah.
Around that time.
What was the beer scene like in Texas at that point?
It's a lot like, from what I gather, of what I know of it here. There had been like a couple of like really renowned brew pubs that had either come and gone or maybe were at the end of their road. There were these tap rooms, more like the Ginger Man. But it was kind of like when I got here, you had like Summit. Surly was still at BC only. I like volunteered there immediately. That was one of the if I had to name 10 reasons why we knew we were going to survive in Minnesota, when I was looking at it from Austin, I was like, there's this crazy brewery that was in Beer Advocate that looks like it's all about metal and monsters, where I'm going to be okay. And then Don and I even did I sent him some real ale from Blanco, Texas, Real Ale Brewing Company, not cask ale. And then he sent me my first cans of like Furious and Cynic. And so yeah, to the point, I think it was kind of the same. There was a couple of bigger breweries.
Yeah.
Couple smaller. I guess the laws down there were probably at least a little better, because it seemed really tough here until some laws started changing.
Well, because nobody could sell, you couldn't have a tap room.
Right.
Which is why, I think that it really stunted, it prevented a lot of people from wanting to do it, because it's like, well, if I can't sell my beer in my brewery, what's the point?
And it must have been that way there, because your bigger breweries would have been like Live Oak, who didn't really have a tap room but did a lot of events and were on tap everywhere, kind of Summit-ish.
Yeah.
I befriended this dude named Todd Henry. He's really what sunk me into craft, because now I have a buddy who's just anytime you want to come down, and I worked right up the hill from this place called Lovejoy's. And I don't know how they must have existed, because they didn't have food. So there had to be something, maybe it was a barrel, maybe it was a volume amount.
Yeah, maybe.
That you could serve your own beer across a bar, or I don't know, but there weren't many versions of what I would consider what we have here now. Blackstock, yes, doesn't have food necessarily, but you didn't have a lot of things like Town Hall even, where there were restaurants with brew kits. There are a couple. So yeah, and now that scene down there, just like the scene here, is just bonkers.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Austin's on a list of mine to go for beer and barbecue.
Yeah.
But I haven't. They were supposed to do one of the last. Well, in 2020, that's where the Beer Bloggers and Writers Conference was supposed to be, and then they shut it down because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to going to that. It was going to be, that was going to be okay. Finally, check this place off the bucket list and. You should do
one of your summer of Dan trips down there, dude. I could point you. I could build your itinerary.
Yeah,
you don't.
Summer of Dan. The meat sweats are bad enough when it's 60 degrees. I can't do it.
You need a November MEA of Dan.
I know. Or actually, the very first trip I ever took in 2015, I drove from St. Paul to Colorado via Kansas City, and I drove straight through. And I got down there. And I was like, is there something wrong with my car's thermometer? Because it says 103. Yeah. That's got to be a malfunction. And then I got out of my car.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy shit.
Austin's no joke, too.
This is humid, hot, disgusting. I'm like, thank God I'm going into let me go with the side of mac and cheese. And
people are always ask us when we moved up here, they're like, what did you move up here for? And I was like, well, you can have 90 days of 90 plus heat down there, and now it's more than that. It goes into September. Yeah. People are falling out, passing out at ACL Fest and stuff. My brother still lives down there, so I have a touchstone to reality down there. But the winters here stink, but they don't stink as bad as just not wanting to go outside.
Yeah.
Which I would still fight it, but my wife was like, strangely enough, from someone who's from Houston, gets heat sick like so quick, which means there was a lot of indoor stuff when we were trying to hang out, and then like I'd go out to the greenbelt with the boys, like the dudes who are willing to like nearly fall out. We're like, we'll go find a swimming hole. So yeah, I mean, Texas, I can't speak for it 100%, but it was a great place for me to get into this. And then they had a club called the Austin Zealots. Like when you first start homebrewing, you kind of assume that what you're supposed to do is join a club.
Yeah.
And yeah, I joined the Zealots for like a year and had a great time. And
did they come up here when the HomebrewCon was here? Because I feel like
all the time.
Okay,
they're the ones that have like the fake Viking helmets, which is like funny for.
Yeah,
you think a club up here should have the fake Viking,
right? No, I've had their beer.
Yeah, they're great brewers. So then I moved up here, and really it's how I made the people who are still my friends to this day are like, because other friends have come and gone through all the different jobs, but like got here, felt pretty lonely because Elsa and I were both working overnights at Fox 9. There was no way to like meet people, so I figured out where the clubs were, and the first couple of club events I went to were like how I met badass Brian Adams. And now, we don't see each other as often as I would like, but that's like a constant.
Yeah.
To speak in terms of the show Lost, Brian Adams is my constant. But it really is. Like, I immediately volunteered at Surly. I ended up getting, like a week after moving here, I was wax dipping 09 or 08 Darknesses. So I met, when I was a tour, I wouldn't call it a guide, but like just helping at the tap room. I had a bunch of people that way. I believe that's probably how I met the people who eventually took me to Northern Brewer and gave me a warehouse tour.
Sure.
We're like, hey, this is Jake. I was like, oh, what's up, Jake? Little would I know, like, Jake would become like a key part of freeing me up from broadcast news to what I'm doing now. So it's I landed, was very lonely, started doing all the things with the beer people, and became less lonely very quickly.
Yeah. Also, Minnesota is a tough place to come to if you're not from here. People are so just like closed off and don't really want to bring anybody into the fold, which I think is so odd.
It's weird, but like, my one friend that I knew we would have when we moved up here, I used to like go to my grandma's house in northwest Wisconsin during the summers, no matter where I lived. Illinois, Alabama, Austin, here, part of why we moved here. Reason number 2, I knew we would. Surly was number 1.
Yeah.
Living close to my grandma was number
right.
But anyway, what did I even start that story for? Northwest Wisconsin, something about.
Oh, how Minnesota's closed off. It's hard to meet
so
people.
I knew this dude named Pete, who I knew as a kid from summers there, because his family lived here, had a cabin on the same road. So I get up here, and Pete is nice and invites us to several things, but like, kind of like to your point, it's like people. This is a big enough metro area that you can go to elementary, middle, high school, college at the U, or one of the dozen other universities, start working at Target or wherever. And like, it's not a diss really on the system, but it's just like, it's kind of like the MySpace. They got their top 8, man. I don't need more friends. I got my top 8.
Which I think is so odd. And that's why when I was kind of like getting into craft beer, I found it to be almost like, I'm like, oh, for the most part, I met a lot of people in craft beer who were just like there, involved in different ways, but like very eager to talk about it. And so that kind of, in my mind, that kind of broke down that kind of facade or wall that was, if you're Germanic or Norwegian is in your DNA. And, I like that. So I think craft beer is just like, even in Minnesota, it does kind of buck the trend of being too kind of like, oh no, you stay over there.
It bucks the larger trend of the metro social scene. Not necessarily bucks a trend of any other metro's brewing scene.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to figure out something to say about our brewing community that isn't also true at big places, other cities, Denver, Asheville, Austin.
Yep.
Other than like the climate and like maybe the flavors, the palate.
Yeah.
Where ketchup is too spicy for people, what kind of beer am I going to brew?
Right. Which is kind of interesting because I think about a lot of the breweries here, and when I go to other places and I say I'm from Minnesota, and they're like, "Ooh, like people know about the breweries that we have here." Like, and they're like, "Wow, you guys are doing some really cool stuff." Which is,
when you feel like it's shouted out when they're saying that.
People know this place. They know Black Stack.
Oh.
They know Barrel Theory.
Yeah.
They know a lot of people know Hammerheart.
That's interesting.
Which is funny to me because
they're worthy of being known, but they've never. Right. They're kind of small.
They're so niche.
They've
even
gotten
within
even
this
further
community.
away, like out into the woods. Like, what the hell? That's
but I think
cool.
it just between the music and the beer being what it is, I think it just is noteworthy, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've had it." Which I think is interesting.
It is true. I went to British Columbia on a trip with RahrBSG last September to shoot a bunch of video and interview folks at Gambrinus Malting. And on our way back, we stopped at this place where it's kind of funny. I'd started this email with this guy. He had won. I'm going to totally drop the ball, but he had won either a GABF or a World Beer Cup for traditional style, maybe, or either way, he basically made a Norwegian style like farmhouse ale.
Okay.
In very much the style of this guy Ivar, who I'm like, this weird transatlantic Kvite connection. Like he's coming here in September for the second time. Anyway, I hit up this dude Brad. I was like, this sounds really interesting. If you brew it again, would you send me a 4-pack and we'll have a conversation about how you got obsessed with Kvite and Norwegian brewing. And I end up I can't remember how he pieced it back together. I was like, oh, this guy I'm talking to is like 20 miles south of where we're going to be this whole time at Gambrinus. So I got to go talk to him, and he knew Hammerheart. He was like, ironically or coincidentally now, his sister, who was from BC, is doing some kind of pottery clay stuff up in Grand Marais.
Oh,
so he's like, I'm coming to see her. I'm definitely going to go to Hammerheart. And I think he's going to try to plan it while Ivar, my friend from Norway, is here. Which, as I'm saying this out loud now, I need to add it to my list of Ivar stuff to do. Crap, is
Ivar
Brad coming?
The guy, is his last name Larson?
No, this guy's name, his Ivar Yaiton. He's just, that's a whole rabbit hole. That's a podcast. But it's this Norwegian guy that sent me some legit Kvite, true Kvite, not singulated strains from an American lab. Looked like a freaking sandwich bag of crushed mushrooms. When I worked I remember opening it. I was at the splendid table and had it shipped there and opened it, and my coworker was just like, should that be in here? What is that? Is that a weapon of mass destruction of some sort? I'm like, it kind of is. But he is he's old school, man. He's basically brewing the same way people on his farmstead have brewed for hundreds of years, giant copper kettles, burning juniper, alderwood. I flew over and documented, me and Elsa, and it was not including the fact that you build the brewing water the night before with steeping the juniper and the alderwood. It's a 17-hour, it was 7 in the morning, day one, till 3 or 4 in the morning, because he does everything one scoop at a time with a tiny bowl, and everything mashes for 3 hours, boils for 6 to get this insane caramelization that this Kvite that's been in his family.
Okay.
That's what it wants. He will explain that these Kvites, this isn't supposed to be an episode about Kvite, but I would say,
I love it.
The thing is these Kvites have gone through the same recipe of a family for centuries. So that's what it's built for. Could it ferment an IPA? Can it ferment a Saison? Yeah, but you're giving it what it wants by giving it that family recipe.
Yeah. So
yeah. Case in point, Brad knew Ivar from having been in Norway, knew Hammerheart. Now he might be here. The beer world might bring a trifecta of things together.
Yeah.
Hammerheart, Jackknife, and Ivar.
And I think that's really interesting. So you
get lost in it sometimes, right?
oh yeah.
The web, the dots connected. And
I like that. I like one of the things I like learning about is like anytime I talk to Mike Hoops at Town Hall, I always ask him, okay, so like, where are all your proteges now? Like, because
For real.
there are some breweries, and I think it's like this in every place. This is the fun part about craft beer in a lot of ways is you go to Denver or Portland or Asheville, and you start talking to people. It's like, well, these places, this guy started as a cellarman at Wicked Weed, and now he's doing his own little thing.
Yeah.
And like those beers are so interesting on their own because you take what you learn, but there's only so many. I mean, there's one head brewer at Town Hall, and because Mike is a genius, he teaches the process, teaches the ways to brew his recipes, and you learn that like kind of that method.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I can't take your job or now Derek's job, so I'm gonna go, either start something else. Summit was like that. I think in the time that you were at Summit, there were so many brewers, Eric Harper, Pete Stacy,
a lot of them went into like more like the equipment side, which happens a lot, where they become or a supplier.
Yep.
Like a RahrBSG.
Yep. Is that where Ms. Mazarka?
Ms. first went to RahrBSG
Okay.
As their like technical center brewer, but now he's also on the equipment side of things.
Okay. Yeah. But it's just kind of interesting, and at Summit, I guess that was the first brewery that I really kind of got to know people and brewers there. I interviewed Eric once for his Hop Silo double IPA. I interviewed Nick Hempfer, who's become a good friend. He's a wacky gentleman. When he did the Make It So Earl Grey ESB.
Yeah. That was probably the best ever release party of a beer. I don't know if you went the night it was released, but we ended up like fun. That was during my tenure, so like it was fun to be a part. We basically found like a Star Trek obsessed fan group, and we're like, "Will you just kind of bring whatever it is you would want to go to in here?" And I remember there was like a life size, like kind of like seat from the
awesome.
deck.
Okay.
And I remember, Betsy had like the red, kind of like a softball tee where it was red with the Star Trek logo and the black sleeve, so it looked kind of like the old school, like bright color with black.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying though. When you train under somebody like that and learn a process, like no matter what else you bring to it, your personal taste or your flair or your obsession, it's going to be Belgian. You can get like quality often comes from those processes versus anything else.
I mean, Sean Carnahan got his start there. He's the head brewer at Insight. Andy at Northbound started at, had a little stint at Town Hall.
That's right.
So it's just kind of like a lot of places. And like Surly's the same way. So many people have, started doing something at Surly and went on and did their own thing.
City Elf Andy lives like right up there.
I know.
Okay,
I dropped him. Now I know where he lives because I dropped him off after the live show I did up at Forgotten Star.
Oh,
and he's like, "Well, I'm going to order my Uber." I'm like, "Wait, don't you live relatively close to me? Why don't I just drop you off?" He's like, that's great."
That's the beauty of being the host. Like you're less drunk than everybody around you.
I know. Yeah, you got to keep your that particular episode I had Doug Hoverson, Bill Lindeke, and Chris German. We did a show about beer history.
Oh, okay.
It was so fun.
Really? Chris German?
That's
cool.
I found myself numerous times just turning into an audience member.
Like forgetting that you were moderating the conversation.
Why is it quiet? I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
But yeah, that was really cool. I went to high school with Bill Lindeke. We were in the Boy Scouts together, Cub Scouts back in the day. But it's kind of just fun to the level of expertise that Doug has about Minnesota, Midwest beer history, and that passion for research. And Bill's the same way. He delves more into kind of like the kind of anthropology, science of it, dive bars, cities, and things like that. And then Chris was
talking about ingredients through history. So it was a kind of a nice, kind of a triforce of beer genius.
Yeah.
That's what I should have called it. I said 3 smart guys with microphones, and that didn't really light up the marquee
3
like
smart
I thought.
guys. Here, they talk.
So home brewing, you got your start in home brewing, and then you came here. I would love to know where homebrew was, and it really kind of boomed.
It boomed big.
With Northern Brewer, and I feel like Northern Brewer is such an important place, an important kind of jumping off point for so many people locally.
Yeah, Joe G and Bruno, Bad Weather.
Yeah.
Vaughn Stewart went on to go back home to Cleveland, open book. I mean, that first year when a lot of us kind of left over a course of a year, I just remember being at Great Taste of Midwest, and I was just like, Northern Brewer.
Yeah.
Northern Brewer. Like all these guys had a hand of some sort, or they ended up at then just BSG, now RahrBSG, but tons of dudes and ladies ended up being like sales reps or whatever. For RahrBSG is kind of funny because I mean, if you think about it, and I compare it this way all the time because I've been freelancing for RahrBSG for more than a year now. It's like full-time freelance essentially. It's Northern Brewer, but you're talking to craft brewers instead of home brewers. So it's a different world because craft brewers have way more things they need to worry about other than just making the beer.
Sure.
But the content I get to make, for the most part, is speaking to the same people on a different scale. So that's been nice to not have to go find another job that I have to learn I'm going to learn the language of greenhouses or the language, all the quirks.
Study this tome on brake pads.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Man, I can't imagine.
Well, and I think at its highest point, I think there were over 9,000 craft breweries in the country. Maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I know that this past year was the first year in a long while when there were more closures than openings by I think 40. It wasn't a huge amount.
Yeah.
But I am worried, and I want to. Hopefully, you can talk me off the ledge. Maybe you can't.
I don't know.
That's why I'm sitting in this low couch. I'm very afraid of heights, and this thing is kind of enveloping me in a way that I'm not mad at. This is pretty comfy, but I think about in Minnesota. Once the taproom bill happened in 2011, we became a very fast-growing craft beer market. And I think a lot of that it had to be because of close proximity to Northern Brewer, Midwest Brewing Supplies.
Yeah,
having 2 amazing brick-and-mortar places to go and have a conversation, see the equipment, touch the equipment, go into the little grain room where you could smell the grain, smell all the different things. Having that access, I think, really helped Minnesota get on the map for a craft beer destination. And I tell everybody that will listen, I'm like, come to Minnesota for beer. You're going to be blown away, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised because you're going to think it's like all the other things in Minnesota, the professional sports teams, the highway infrastructure and all that. But this is one thing where I'm proud to talk about. I can't do that with baseball or football or, seasoning on food, but you can do that with craft beer. I am worried right now with where craft beer is and what is first of all, how did it get to that point? And what's the ramification of if homebrew goes away?
Yeah.
Connecting the dots, one could assume that craft beer is not long for this world.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that, I think craft beer followed a very similar trajectory of homebrewing because those homebrewers are who became craft brewers. It blew up in the early 10 teens or 20 teens, and then it kind of plateaued, and then homebrewing kind of dropped as craft beer kind of even kept going a couple years behind that curve. And I think, the sheer quantity of breweries, I think is part of the reason a lot of people stop brewing. They're just like, I don't need to brew a Saison now that I used to not be able to find, or a Belgian beer or whatever, because it's pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think, whereas like homebrewing didn't start to decline because there's too many homebrewers, I think that is a situation specific to the craft brewer where like, yep, you can't just have like endless amounts of breweries, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's X amount of shelf space, there's X amount of time that people want to spend somewhere and money they want to spend somewhere. I don't know, like homebrewing also just seemed, I think we just kind of hit a point where the general, because we're all beer lovers first, and then you're like, I want to figure out how. I think there's just like a change in the drinker's mind where they're just like, I'm just happy to like drink it, maybe nerd out about it, but I think a lot of people just stopped even wanting to really, I'm not here to dissect beer. I'm here to talk to a friend, but be able to find whatever beer I want. So I think a lot of people just kind of, some of the like how-to DIY nature of a lot of stuff changed. I think most immediately. Now I think it's just like so many reasons. It's like so many people aren't drinking. A lot of that first and second wave of homebrewers are all now like, 50s, 60s, 70s, all that comes with that. Not being able to lift stuff or not being able to drink as much. THC, the same stuff you hear everywhere, the doom and gloom side. But I would say, like, I went to the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild's kind of like one-day conference and was at CBC. Granted, I didn't get to go a lot around CBC. We were pretty much just posted up in the RahrBSG village. But I mean, like, I felt there was more positivity in both of those events than I've heard in some years. And I don't know if that's just people are basically like, we're digging our heels in. This is what we've decided to do. Are we going to sit here and like just psych ourselves out and get depressed about it? Or are we going to enjoy the ride for whatever's left of it? But they're not even saying it in that way. They really, there seemed to be a lot of positive, especially in the Minnesota one. That was more, and I think that's because there are opportunities for people that are willing to differentiate themselves, I think, to thrive.
Yeah.
I think that's more at this level, though. Like, we're never going to have another Summit, Surly, Fulton, Shells. Like, so now I think the positive side is that there's still people that want beer. I think you just have to probably change your mind if you're about to open a brewery about what that scale really is or should be.
Yeah.
Homebrew right now, I think, is more difficult. And I saw you had wanted to talk about this, so I'll just get into it. Like, to your point, this MSP area like thrived because there was these two brick and mortar shops.
Yeah.
But they were also powered, people in Idaho knew who Northern Brewer was. People in everywhere knew Midwest and Northern Brewer. We had this really unique situation where they were also still our walk-up stores.
Yeah.
But then when those closed 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, as a home brewer, and I'll be very blunt, if I couldn't get the hookups that I get through RahrBSG, Imperial Yeast, people that like help out Chop and Brew, like I definitely would have stopped brewing. Like I am not the kind of person, and I have friends like this. Like I got a buddy, Paul Fowler, who can calendar his whole year. He knows when he's brewing, and as long as nothing goes awry, when he's kegging, and he knows his 12 beers, and he can order 3 or 4 at a time. I'm just like, I don't think that way. So what was good about Northern Brewer, both when I worked there and during the years I wasn't, I was still number one customer, because like you would go into the grain room, you might pivot upon being in there and be like, you know what, I'm gonna shake this up a little bit. So losing those two stores, there's a store, I'm not gonna like say there's nothing, there's Beermeister, but it's like 45 minutes.
Isn't it out in like
Medina?
Medina? Okay, yeah.
And then I just saw a flyer for one that opened in Rogers, but I was like, dude, like, okay, yes, beggars can't be choosers, but when you're used to being able to drive to a place, and now, I've looked at other suppliers that are online only. Yeah. And you still got to like cobble things together across like 2 or 3 companies sometimes. And you're just like, so we've really gotten to this point. Don and I were just talking about this the other day. It's like, well, we've been able to brew and we're brewing stuff we like, but I'm not brewing beers that I necessarily like want We're brewing out of what we have,
Yeah.
out of these like hookups. Like, well, what's left? A bunch of that and a bunch of that and some rice. We're doing this. Instead of like, I definitely want to brew a black IPA, but no one's hooking us up with, I don't want a 55-pound sack of roasted barley that's going to take 20 years
Right.
to either go through. So, yeah, it's tough. It's like, and first world problems, woe is us. It's like most brewers dealt with that their entire homebrewing career, quote unquote.
Right.
Like, that was the humbling things. We'd go to these homebrew cons or national homebrewers conference, and we, just talking to people. I'm like, oh, you go to the store, and they're like, no, I order from you guys. Like, I got to know exactly what I want, and I got to plan it 2 weeks in advance in case there's something. You're like, man, I lived in Austin, had an amazing shop, Austin Homebrew Supply. Rest in peace, which is what I started with. Moved up here, and even as a TV person, I was like, there's 2 big shops here?
Yeah.
Went to Midwest because I lived in Southwest Minneapolis at the time. But
Okay.
So, yeah, to have those, and I've heard the gambit of responses to that. Like, local people have basically, like, written those 2 companies off. I'll order from anybody else because of how they did us dirty on the local.
Yeah.
All the way to, there's a couple of other places you can order from in Wisconsin. Right Brew will get it. And like, I'm not trying to be a Right Brew commercial, but they do that speedy delivery that's kind of like this 3 or 4 state area.
Yeah.
And dude, like, it'll be here the next day.
Okay.
From like central Wisconsin. So
that's kind of interesting.
It's gotten more difficult logistically.
Yeah.
For me personally, and I can see it with a lot of other people. Even like the CO2 exchanges. Like, you used to be able to go to Northern Brewer and swap out a CO2 tank. Now, once a week, there's like a listserv discussion where like, where'd y'all go to get that? Oh, okay, here. And so, yeah, it's made it difficult to kind of find as much joy as I used to, for sure. Like, I do still find joy, and I like to support the community through content. And it's also still the way, like, I know most people. Like, if I stopped brewing, I was like, oh, what would I do with, me and Badass Brian Adams could, like, smoke some ribs. Me and Don Osborne could, like, pick some guitars or something. But it really becomes, like, how you know these people.
Right.
To the point where, like, oh, I don't want to just, like, give up.
Well, I wonder, do you think, like, I mean, obviously, like, Northern Brewers gone, Midwest Brewing Supplies are gone, because they got very big, and I'm sure it was just like, when you become a big business, it's like, well, all of a sudden this thing that used to be like, well, we need this because this is like a big deal for a lot of people, then it becomes a line item on a spreadsheet, and it's like, oh, we can just cut that and save ourselves X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are even enough homebrewers where if somebody was going to open up a homebrew shop in the Twin Cities,
if you put them in the cities,
are there enough people to support that, do you think?
I don't know. That's the question, right? I mean, as Northern Brewer and Midwest were closing down, and I was working there as that happened for my second tour of Northern Brewer, like, a lot of what you're hearing are people like, same thing you hear with restaurants, where like, oh man, I used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like, well, if you weren't coming once a month, you're not necessarily part of the problem, but you're definitely part of, it's all part of the problem. Is that there wasn't that much, or people were like figuring out other ways to get stuff, like the hookups or group buys, and not necessarily going to the homebrew shop. What was he saying? Having a lot of that happen when we're surrounded by people. I'm like, oh, look at that kid.
There's a lot of external stimulation here. Well, speaking of external stimulation, we should go get some more liquid stimulation, because I see both of our glasses.
You're gonna do a pause?
We're gonna pause. We're here at Black Stack Brewing. We're talking homebrew, traveling, BSG, RAR with Chip Walton. And this is just, I'm having a really good time. So.
Yeah, man.
All right, we're going to go get a beer, and then we'll be back. Boop, boop. Hey, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you are enjoying a One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people.
A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and meet other interesting beer people. If you're also into those things, you will probably want to keep tabs on the show. So go ahead and follow A One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and I've even started a TikTok account because I was tired of Charles calling me a boomer for not having one. I would appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to your podcasts to help make it easier for other craft beer listeners to find us. If you want to be a supporter of the podcast with some of the extra change you find in your couch cushions, I've got a Patreon. There are 3 different monthly levels of support, and they're priced at $1, $3, or $5 a month. If you pledge at the $3 or $5 monthly level, you get some pretty cool perks. So go to patreon.com and search up A One Pint Stand to check it out. We are up to 26 supporters, and I'm just so happy for what that means for the show. If you like reading about craft beer, you can check out my written work on aonepintstand.com. I love to write, and that's where you can find all the written content that covers both the local craft beer happenings as well as my craft beer travels. There's some good stuff coming up. I just put a couple articles up from my trip to Grand Rapids. There'll be some stuff from New Ulm coming out, and I just got back from Boise, Idaho. So the Getting Boisterous in Boise collection of articles is hopefully going to be making an appearance, but sooner than later. So I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to enjoy our stories. Before we head back to the show, I want to talk about this episode's sponsor, Northbound Smokehouse and Brewpub. Swing by and soak up the sun on their spacious summer patio enclosed with lush garden boxes, hop vines, and solar panels. Enjoy seasonal cocktails, award-winning food and beer. Their happy hour is top-notch, with $2.50 beers on Tuesdays, half-price wings on Wednesdays, or late-night happy hour specials. This September is their 13th year anniversary. Keep your eyes on their social media for events such as Oktoberfest and award-winning beer releases. Great for a quick pint with an old friend, a first date with someone new, or a comfy family dinner with everyone you love. No matter what you're in the mood for, venture northbound.
How about a beer?
Okay, we're back after
Glass is full.
getting a fresh bowl of loudmouth soup. We're at Black Stack Brewing on A One Pint Stand, and I'm being joined by Chip Walton.
Here, have you ever gotten a clink on mic? Oh,
Bingo.
Bang.
I love it when the sound effects come to fruition. I went old school.
Did you call this loudmouth soup?
755, local 755.
Yeah, it's a street address.
One
It
of
took me a
their-
minute to figure out why it was called that, and I was like,
I'm like, there's 755 different hops in here. Can you name them all?
It seems like it sometimes.
Yes.
I got Stacks Man, which is kind of something I wanted to talk about
Oh, yeah.
when we get to the craft beer, maybe even like just real quick before we wrap up home runs. I feel like one of the things, I'm not going to say it's going to save craft beer, but what I have found is collaborations beyond just brewery and brewery. Like, yes, those are also awesome.
Yeah.
But I love seeing so many breweries really looking around their community. So this is called Stacks Man. It's a shout out to the Axe Man.
Oh, sure.
Random surplus store, to the point where like some of the stuff you would know from that store is now on the can. You know,
okay.
They've currently got one with the Science Museum in Minnesota. Bad Weather's done that a few times. It's like kind of reaching out to your community and seeing, you know, who needs a little lift up.
Yeah.
In a way that like benefits both of you, because you're cross promoting this beer event, this beer release. I'm thinking, you know, those are 2 examples, but at the Guild conference that we did locally, especially more like rural breweries, I feel like they lean like really hard on that kind of stuff in a good, awesome way. Like, because I mean, the people you're making beer for should also feel involved to some extent in like what gets made and why it gets made. And you know, you can raise money with them and all that. Proceeds go to blankety blank, but it's also, I think breweries are beyond being able to exist in a vacuum. And not that they ever wanted to, but I feel like sometimes brewing thought it was too cool for school a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, well, don't be so cool that no one wants to come hang out or feels like they can't come hang out, right?
Right. And that's just what I was going to say. I think sometimes when a collaboration happens, that can be, I'm in Brewing Change Collaborative, which is a nonprofit for people of color in craft beer adjacent. We've done collaborations with breweries, and sometimes people, that's how they find us.
Yep.
Is they're like,
for sure.
Okay, so this brewery collaborated with a nonprofit for people of color wanting to help inclusivity, access to the industry and whatnot. And that becomes okay, so this is a brewery I can go to if I'm a person of color, and that's a good thing. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of provide both entities some nice visibility and a nice connection where there seemingly isn't one.
Far beyond trivia night.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh, God. Many a conversation has been ruined by trivia mafia. We're building a case.
You
Class
mean when
action.
you're recording? Yeah,
That's right. Oh, God. Here we go. It's the music round. Everybody hide under a table.
Yeah. You had asked a question of something like, what are 3 things you kind of see happen? One of them you kind of just touched on. I think, as a bearded white guy, the fact that there's, not only bearded white guys, there's so many more women, people of color, people of different orientations, and not only being in the biz and kind of fitting in, but maybe their whole mission statement is really not fitting in and really, promoting whatever it is that they believe, hold firmly, and that becomes the identity of the brewery. I don't feel like that was happening 15 years ago.
Right.
I'm not going to say that I feel like 15 years ago, it just seemed like it was all about the branding became its own life. Yeah. Whether that was the off-centered ales of Dogfish or kind of the metal vibe of Surly. And those are awesome things, and they will elevate you. But at a certain point, it's well, what's behind that? Yeah. That image, what's behind and who's behind it. So I like that has seemed different over the 15 years. I like that we kind of had this, we had the IBU wars and then the ABV kind of wars. And I feel like we've come back to some kind of sensible thoughts on beer where everyone, Summit's got that new 3.8% light lager. Supra Deluxe from
Super
Modest
Deluxe
now has a Supra Light that's 4.2. Just kind of thinking, it's more than just saying beer flavored beer. It's really okay, a beer you can either have several of, or even if you're just having the one, it just doesn't kind of wreck you as much. But I also feel like there's a lot of finesse to appreciate in those beers. Yes, there's not 5 hops and all this other stuff, but it kind of come back to the conversation of just well, what's it really take to make beer?
Yeah.
It doesn't need a balance breaking amount of hops to make a beer. I kind of like that we're coming back to, I would say even light drinking lagers, but it's really lighter drinking beers in general.
I think, and I know we already mentioned Bad Weather at one point, but they seem to do a lot of really good, middle of the range ABV beers that really showcase malt. They do a great Ease Alt.
Yeah, Ease Alt
is phenomenal. Every now and again, they'll put on their English Dark Mild. That's good. Falling Knife has an English Dark Mild on right now.
He'll do that. Andy will do the pub session ale that's 3.2.
Codswallop.
What?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I think it's the Ordinary Bitter. Yeah, just real easy drinking. Sometimes they'll have it on cask. But I think for a long time there was this mentality that I want to get my money's worth.
Right.
If I'm paying, back in the day, God, can you remember $5-6 a pint? Now it's the economics are so different, but such is life. Yeah. But if somebody's paying $5 for a pint, they want to get their alcohol out of it, and I think that just is such a. I think people's mindsets are shifting away from that, and really just I want to hang out. I want to be social, and have sit here, have a couple of beers with a friend, and have some conversation, or play a game, or do a trivia night. But if your lowest ABV beer is 7.6%, that you're kind of playing with fire there.
Yeah.
So I like to see that there are more sessionable options, but
Yeah.
good flavors. I mean, for a long time, a Pilsner was the litmus test of what could a brewery do. If you go into a brewery and their Pilsner is great, there's no flaws, for me, that means I'll be able to try anything and it should be good.
Yeah.
But
I can't remember my third thing. We're talking about the low
flying
ABV.
cars powered by triple IPAs.
Yeah. Well, I will say I like that just as a beer drinker, the resurgent of a few random styles like black IPA. Seen a lot more of those the last couple of years, like a red IPA. I mean, it's easy to say this because you've heard it, but like just a clear IPA getting a little bit back away from the hazy. I love hazies, but I just think it's nice to see those kind of West Coast IPAs seemingly have like kind of taken over the last 2 or 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they haven't kicked hazies off here.
No.
But
they have them.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while you couldn't find them. This is kind of a random question, but do you think that like we had that like handful of years where a lot of places essentially whittled down their tap list to 3 things: hazy IPAs, pastry stouts, and
Fruited
kettle
sours.
sours.
Yeah.
Do you think that did irreparable harm to
It's a strongly worded question.
Sorry.
Tell me what you really think.
I'm here to make the outlandish statements. I want to be hired by ESPN to talk about sports, so I gotta have these hot takes. But okay, maybe irreparable harm is a little much. But I mean, that was kind of during the time during the time when so many people were coming into craft beer, and then like you're going to breweries all over town, and it's like. Their 75% of their tap lines are tied up in those 3 styles. I think there's a lot of people that came into craft beer thinking craft beer was those 3 things. It's kind of like the allegory of the cave. You're in a cave. You're chained up. You're looking at shadows on a wall, and you think this is the world. And then you escape and you go outside the cave. You're like, there's a whole other world out here. Why was I looking at those shadows the whole time? The only reason I reference that because I'm an English teacher, but I think it like
I've never really thought about that, and I think that's a very strong factor. The more I think about it, so what would you say? So people that just kept going into tap room after tap room, seeing that selection, where did they didn't just get scared away from beer, right? Or do you think they found something to take home?
I think whereas people of a certain age or, when you got into it, a lot of us discovered craft beer as you'd go into a place, they've got an amber ale, a pale ale, an IPA, a brown ale, a porter, a stout, maybe, if you're lucky, a barley wine. Maybe some Belgians, maybe some good lagers. But like, if you were coming in and you're like, well, okay, these hazy IPAs are everywhere. I guess this is craft beer. So I'm going to look for these because I like these, and I'm not going to really venture outside of that. Where if you were lucky enough to go to Town Hall and you saw a Dortmunder, you're like, what the hell is that? Why would I order that? I can't even spell that. Where's like, and one of my greatest joys in life on my 46 years on the planet was one time I was sitting at the bar at Town Hall, and this gaggle of people came in they must have been staying at the hotel next door. And I think it was either like a bachelorette type situation or some wedding, some wedding festivity. And they're like, do you have a hazy IPA? And the bartender was like, no. And just the look on these people's faces, their jaws hit the floor like, well, what do you mean you don't have, like, we don't have that. We have like a bunch of other styles. Like we have like...
Is that something Town Hall as a principle never brewed? Like, I guess you're right.
I don't
I've
know
never
if
seen one.
they'd say that, but I think...
Yeah, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
But I think they're... I mean, I think they just do so many other things well, and they know that there's other places that are hyper-focused on that style.
Yeah.
But...
I mean, I would say that you have a great point, and I had not thought of that. And it's probably, I wouldn't say it did irreparable, maybe, but like it's a probably bigger reason why. Maybe a lot of people just like, I don't like super syrupy, sour, or hazy. I fail to believe they just didn't drink beer. Maybe they just went back to what they know, but that meant buying a 12-pack and going home. I would also say, like, it's hard to see that, envision that, okay, what if you live in a town with 3 breweries and they're all doing that? It's a different thing. But here, I feel like unless you really only use the breweries that someone dragged you to 3 or 4 times that happen to be that way, you probably could have still found the Town Hall, the Bad Weather. But I think by and large, you're right. I mean, there was a hot minute where that was like, no shade on Barrel Theory, but there was like, Barrel Theory was pretty much like the formula, the template for a
Barrel
lot.
Theory's like iterations of those 3 styles were phenomenal. But if you just like, I mean, if somebody, it's like if a restaurant served 3 things and they're all really good, but if you don't like those 3 things, then you like, in my mind, it's conceivable to be like, I don't know if I like fine dining.
I'm not going to Raising Cane's. I hate chicken, Texas toast, and French fries.
That's right. Well, if you hate Texas toast, we need to get you some joy and get you connected with the church, because that's Texas toast is delightful.
Speaking of City Elf Andy, I just saw him literally walk by, and I assumed he'd be coming in here, but that had to be at least like 5 minutes ago. So unless he got very lost on his way in here. I was kind of expecting a City Elf sighting.
He's a quirky dude. Oh, yeah.
Granted, he could be going to Menard. I mean, he might be like, I just need a flashlight. I'm not driving. Sure, does he have a car? He doesn't have a car.
Oh,
I don't know. We're getting too detailed about
we'll just
other
swing
people's
by his house
business.
after. Hey, you walk by the brewery, you don't say hi.
Is there anything? You don't come and see Dan sitting in his super plush couch.
That's right. Well, maybe that's
on
why.
the day of my daughter's
Because this is below
wedding.
sea level here. I'm kind of,
What did you want to ask me about homebrewing?
Oh, okay. So
you said there was something
as
that
we're kind of
launched.
wrapping up the homebrew conversation, we've talked about whether it's still a viable thing, but like if somebody is like a home brewer right now, they really like what they do. What are some beer styles that should be on a home brewer's radar because maybe they're not as prevalent as like an IPA or a brown ale?
It
but
comes
like
back to the question of like why that first wave of home brewers, like in the late 70s and 80s, you used to hear the story all the time. They're like, I went to Germany, I experienced Belgian and French beer, I came home, all I could find was Bud Miller Coors, so I had to figure out how to make it.
Right.
And that's kind of, to my point, like that's what, when I get my head wrapped around something, it's something, yes, I can buy Slopes, but I can't buy another French-style Pilsner. So I would say smoked beers. Like, I know that smoked beer can be divisive, but there's also certain smoked malt ingredients that are way softer on the touch. Like oak smoked wheat is one. I did a smoked Kolsch this spring that was just like my favorite beer I've done potentially ever, but definitely in like the last couple of years. I don't know. I'm trying to think of styles that like have something in the process that's different.
Yeah.
Like there's this thing now, people have been doing it for years, but it was still kind of mind blowing where you like dry hop during fermentation instead of at the end, risking that vegetal. And it's just a different thing to like pop that lid and throw hops in a still churning beer. That's just, it's neat. It makes you kind of reconsider, all right, it's not always the same 7 things to make every beer.
Yeah.
That can obviously also be wrapped around ingredient, like what I was saying, like a smoked malt. But yeah, I don't know. I would dare people to try to make lower ABV but still flavorful beers. There's, books out there trying to capture that exact same thing. I don't know. Think about what you can't find but like and miss, maybe. Like Saisons, I don't feel like you can find at a lot of places, and they're fairly forgivable on temperature. I mean, that used to be a big thing too. Like other parts of the country, you'd be like, we know winter, where you can lager literally in your basement at ambient temps, but you're like, the rest of the country, come March, they're like,
Yeah.
it's Saison and dry yeast time because I don't trust liquid yeast in the mail.
Yeah.
I don't know, like try a hoppy brown ale. That sounds so like goofy, and that was my first beer. That was another question I had. Like, I feel like so many's first beer, if you go to a homebrew shop and you're clearly there to like, I want to buy a kit, and the guy behind the counter is like walking you through it, they'll always point you to like an American brown because it's like, it's enough hop, it's enough malt, it's enough, there's enough forgiveness in there that if your first batch out, because the worst thing you want to do is like lead someone into a bad batch the first time out. They're like, I'm definitely done with this. Like, I didn't make it batch number 2.
I brewed several, at least 4 or 5 different rounds of caribou slobber.
Oh yeah,
from Northern Brewer.
Yeah.
That was a favorite of mine. I really liked how that turned out.
I assume the kit that I had from Austin Homebrew Supply was probably not saying out loud a clone of that of some sort. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's just a hoppy brown. Go back. I've thought about this, like for Chop and Brew's 10th anniversary, which passed like 3 years ago with no fanfare, even of my own making. I was like, I should go back and brew like the first 5 beers I did extract as all grain, because I still have, because I was
that would have been great.
I was a super nerd where like I had all that stuff in binders. Like I don't do that crap anymore. I can barely like tell you the notes from the beer that I made last week when I'm like, oh, I actually needed that for a video. Oops. But I still have like all those Austin Homebrew Supply, brew those. I did an American Brown. I did a Kolsch. They called it Texas Kolsch, which I think they put a little riff on it. Then I jumped all the way into an Imperial Stout for my third beer. And, just be fun to like revisit those exact recipes, but as an all grain, not. I mean, you could also argue it'd be fun to do them as extracts with the little bit more that I've learned over 15 years of
right,
like,
and the fact that
temperature
extract
and
has
process.
gotten so much better as an ingredient, just because that would be interesting. It'd be like, oh, remember this used to taste like liquid cardboard? I mean, it has that homebrew flavor.
Yeah, that twang. They used to call it.
Yeah,
the homebrew twang. I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with like rice lagers at the moment, and everything.
So am I.
And everything we've learned about lager yeast in the last couple of years, that lager yeast really don't have to be at 50. I mean, that's what cold IPA. Cold IPA is basically people that were taking things that for years and years and years you would get your hand slapped if you tried to ferment them outside of the 50s. You can do them in the lower 60s and they're delicious. Like it's it's a wider, what I've learned, I'm not going to say who told me this, but there's like yeast labs are like, like the range we put on the package is the safest range for expectation, for performance expectation.
Sure.
They're like, every yeast strain will go higher and lower. It's just how will it then perform?
Okay.
I mean, higher obviously is always going to at least work a little better. Cold is where it goes dormant, and you're like, uh-oh. But yeah, I would like try to like brew a cold IPA or a rice lager that even if you can't truly rice lager it, because it's a fun ingredient to work with. Also, you get it flaked rice, like pre-gelatinized, then you don't have to do the like, let me go cereal cook this over here and add it. That's the thing that intimidates someone.
Sure.
But to your point, extracts are better. Almost every ingredient, including like flaked rice, is now ready to use like right into the mash tun. There's so many things now that used to take like an extra step to beat it into submission to work properly.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, nope, you just add it. So yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of suggestions in there.
Yeah. I mean, I think about craft beer, kind of moving from home brewing to craft beer. I've seen a lot more rice lagers, commercial examples of rice lagers, different takes on them. I think that's really fun and interesting. We mentioned Modest Super Deluxe Arbeiter Toki is a good example. God, where was
I've even just like fallen in love with like actual Sapporo.
Yeah.
Because like it's owned, I mean, it's brewed here. Like it's not even a question of if it's an import that's been sitting on in storage for 2 months. Like it's owned by, it's brewed at Stone. So I mean, Oh, that's what I want to say. I'll finish this thought real quick. But like, even like those import rice lagers have so much character and are very different. But I was going to say the third thing that I like and have noticed about craft beer, and this comes back to the survival of it, is you're seeing so many, I'll call it just like new ways of getting it done. Like, there's alt props. That's not as popular, but like where 3 breweries are operating out of one space and they just really, someone's in charge of scheduling that. Contract brewing is so much less of a bad word than it used to be. What's kind of the other version of where people are just like teaming up? I mean, a lot of time it gets considered as like conglomeration and consolidation, but like if that's what you're going to have to do to survive, why wouldn't 2 independents kind of gang up? You know, there's the whole canarchy thing, which is a bigger version of that, almost to the top of being called big beer. But it's like, dude, give up on the big beer and the little beer. Like, if you want beer to survive, there's going to need to be all of it. But I do think people have gotten very creative, or say like Nico down at Little Thistle doing Double Elbow. I guess his footprint is never going to be massive, but people being allowed to do creative brands within their day job, or somebody being allowed to come in. I don't know. I feel like more of that is honestly going to happen. Like big, giant, empty tanks getting filled with someone else's beer at least, instead of just being wasted real estate. Not thinking the only 2 ways to exist are packaging, giant bottling and canning line, and giant trucks going to distributors, or tiny tap room. Like there's all these other morphed hybrid scenarios now.
I hope people get into that headspace, because I'm worried that there's going to be just more closures, and a lot of the places that you and I really appreciate are just going to go just extinct. And I think there are ways. I'm glad you said that, because I don't know why people, I'm sure there's different legalities of things, but like I think back to, remember when, was it Badger Hill, Bad Weather,
and at the time Lucid
and Lucid, that
was the first time I ever heard alt prop as a thing, and they
kind of shared that brew space. I think that would save a lot of people's bacon. When it came to like some of the, or like even just like as different costs move up and down with tariffs. I saw that BSG committed to like keeping their prices consistent until the end of 2025, and then kind of seeing what happens. But like tariffs, or just like different ingredient costs, and just as climate change happens, that's rent, like certain things are going to get harder to come by.
Cans.
I mean, there's so many different things, and if you could like, hedge your bets, or kind of, pool your resources together and just do more sharing, I think that's going to be the big thing in the next 5 years. That if people can figure out a way to do that, that will kind of be a lifeline to kind of ensuring that, the industry continues forward. And I feel like homebrewing needs to be a part of that. I don't know what that looks like. Because who's getting into home? Like,
you asked that question.
If you were like, trying to like, why should you homebrew right now? I mean, you go to Northeast Minneapolis, you could swing a dead cat and hit 5 breweries. Why do you need to invest in some equipment?
I don't know.
Is it that nerd factor, the DIY, really doing a deep dive, or the fact that like, hey, I want to be able to have an ordinary bitter on tap in my house because nobody's brewing that style, it won't sell?
Yeah, I think the answer is both, but I think it leans more on that nerd. Like, you've got to get somebody who wants to know the inside and out of this other thing that they enjoy. I think it's hard for me as like a now 47-year-old looking back on 17 years of brewing with all these like really different eras to like, that was a hard question. Like when I worked at Northern Brewer the second time, we're like, okay, COVID flashbang aside, where they're just, people are like, I've got that equipment, I'm going to dust it off because I'm working at home and I can. It's like, I have a hard time thinking of who is in. It might be me just being cynical. I'm like, the younger generation just wants things quick, or they just want, like Jake Keeler and I agree that like at a certain point in your life, time becomes way more valuable than money.
Yeah.
So the question is, at what point, and maybe the younger generation values that time sooner.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because, like, not to be like depressing about it, but it just seems like things could end at any point. In a more positive way. I think people are just like, what do they call it? They call it like the experience culture. They're all about making sure you get as much into your time.
Yeah.
Whereas you can argue that brewing is very much the opposite of that. That's like taking something that could be a 5-minute trip to the store to buy a beer.
Yeah.
It's a full day of brewing. Then it's kind of like watching it as it ferments. Then it's however you're going to package it.
Yeah.
But the other people find that to be part of the fun. Like,
yeah.
So I have a hard time. That's why, Chop and Brew is not nearly as viewed and popular, quote unquote, as it was 13 years ago. Like, I can barely get like 1,000 views, whereas it like used to hit thousands plus in the first week.
Yeah.
I just think I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough, you'd want to flip it and be like, what other hobby might be having the same kind of decline? I can't even like put my finger on a comparable, like, I don't know, is woodworking in decline? I don't know any woodworkers.
No idea. My dad is a woodworker. He loves it, but he's 82 years old and probably shouldn't be operating woodworking equipment.
I don't know.
That's a conversation I'm going to have.
What was it? There was another like maker kind of hobby though that when I was at Northern Brewer, kind of like, it's kind of like what's happening with this. I think gardening, I think cooking, even though we think it's on a rise because of like the influencer element of it on social, like with all these places. Think about like cooking your own meal versus HelloFresh or Blue Apron, if that even exists. Like, there's always competition to take something that you could do for yourself and make it a lot quicker and easy. Like, what do you do with that free time? I don't know.
Yeah.
Binge Netflix, sit on your phone. Like, I'm not saying that's all that people do, but God, it's like, it kind of stinks if you're not homebrewing because it takes so long, but then you're like on your phone for 7 hours.
I know. This is the problem. I think that like as a society, like there needs to be a balance. Obviously, like, you could spend a lot of time brewing a beer, like you said, 5-minute drive down the street. You go down to the Dabbler Depot and go in there, massive cooler space, and get your beer that was
and you can
fresh.
See it. Every innovation, for the most part, I don't just say every, but a lot of innovation in the homebrewing space, I would say over the last 5 or 10 years, has been making it easier.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these like Keurig model of homebrewing where it's
what is that? That brew father, the grain father?
The grain father is still homebrewing.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're right.
But
that's what I thought would be the answer to my lack of process problem. And I like it, but it's neither here nor there. But those all-in-ones are a step towards that. But I'm talking about where I can't even remember the name of one offhand, but like you'll see a Kickstarter a year for one of these things that like you put the packet of extract, you put the hops, it boil it literally like Keurig. It does all the things, and then it even ferments in there, and then you move that whole thing into your fridge, and you've got tap beer a week and a half later, and you're just like, man, I thought so hard about. I get pitched that all the time by people like, would you like to do a review? I'm like, no, just like I'd love to see if it works, but I don't think it's going to be great quality. And if I'm going to put any of that time towards something, I should just do the brewing that I already know.
Right. It's a difference.
But they've tried to make, and I wonder what their like research is showing them that made them think that putting that much time and effort, R&D, Kickstarter, like they have to think that there's somebody out there that wants homebrewed beer, but without the process. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think everybody's still clinging onto that growth from even like 15 years ago and thinking that there's some kind of magic bullet to like make that happen again. And I mean, other companies besides Northern Brewer, like massive online retailers, also dropped their retail stores, centralized warehousing, whereas they might have had two. Now there's it's more of a when you ask a home brewer, you going to start a brewery? And you'd be like, why would I ruin a great hobby? I think the homebrewing industry has the corporate version of that, where they're like, that was fun, but now it's a struggle, and the people aren't just like coming to us hand over fist. Everything we try isn't working. For some reason, you can't really decipher the needs of the people.
Yeah.
And with craft beer on a slow decline, I think it's just kind of, maybe now it's almost like homebrew used to lead craft beer. Maybe now it's almost like, well, if breweries aren't doing great, like why would I I don't know.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
I still think the best
correlation.
reason to do it is if you can't find styles that you have liked and have just kind of disappeared, or if you're just very much kind of like the kind of person that takes a toaster apart to put it back together, which I've never been. I'm like,
I did that accidentally before I put my contacts in. I'm like, wow, this breakfast is going to take a lot longer now.
Well, that toaster's gone. Yeah, I don't know.
So you know, if somebody was like, comes up to you and said, hey, Chip, you know, I'm thinking about homebrewing. Do you say go for it? Or you'd be like, you know what, save yourself a lot of time, a lot of mess, a lot of storage. Just go to the breweries. Or do you still feel like it's a worthwhile, like, fun hobby to get into?
Yeah, I think if somebody...
Because you never know, like, this person asking might be the next... You know, might be the next Nico. Might be the next... I
mean, if somebody's asking, I would never turn them away. Like, that means they're already at least thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, no, because to my point earlier of me trying to streamline as far away from a bunch of gadgets and stuff, and, like, you can do it so much easier than we were told when I first started.
Yeah.
And it was still pretty easy. The extract, but like once you got all grain, like when I got into it, everybody was like, you gotta buy this now. No, you gotta buy this. You're like, this literally is like making tea. And then like sweet tea and then adding yeast to it. Like you can, that's why I brew in a bag for the most part. It's real easy. You can argue one thing or another is going to be minutely unattainable through that method, but it's not worth it to me to like, well, let me go get these 2 giant igloo coolers and, you know, no longer be able to do it in my kitchen.
Yeah.
No, I would say if somebody's interested, like, goodness, like at least try it. The point is, at least there's still a Northern Brewer online.
Yeah.
And a Midwest and a More Beer. And like,
and there's so many resources.
You live in a city that actually still has a store. That would be super rad. But like, you can do it more easy now than ever, because I think people in the industry are so desperate to keep it alive that they'll be like, what do you want to do? You want to brew it back? Cool. I'm not going to try to sell you this giant steel thing that you probably don't need. I want you to commit to brewing 6 batches this year.
Yeah.
And buy the ingredients from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been a very enlightening conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like I could talk to you for hours about beer,
but there's
life.
There's tacos.
And there's tacos.
Over there.
So we're gonna wrap it up. Chip, thank you so much for joining me today to have a nice beer conversation. And this has been another on-location episode of a One Pint Stand here at Black Stack Brewing with Chip Walton.
Shout out, Black Stack, Midway St. Paul.
Holy Toledo, I had such a great time chatting with Chip Walton. He has so many stories and insights about craft beer, both locally and regionally. I love hearing about I just love how he uses his storytelling to connect with people and bring his passion for home brewing and the craft beer industry to so many people in such an accessible way. He's an absolute treasure. In fact, the other day, a partnership was announced between Hop and Barrel in Hudson, Wisconsin and Lift Bridge in Stillwater, Minnesota. And there's kind of a quasi merger happening. Well, this will effectively allow Hop and Barrel to continue. Hop and Barrel had previously announced that they were going to close. Now, Chip and I mentioned on the show that we thought moves like this would be necessary for smaller operations to continue, as craft beer gets tougher. The whole idea of kind of circling the wagons and pooling resources. I think we're going to see more of that. Well, long story short, Chip has his finger on the pulse of this industry, and I really enjoyed talking with him, and I'm definitely going to get him on again, hopefully sooner than later, because we just had so much fun chatting, and I want to hear more of his homebrewing stories as well as his craft beer insights. Now, I want to give a special thank you to Brad Ashton, Marcus Dotson, Chuck Dorsey, Vicky Epper, Daniel Fisher, Todd Fitzloff, Laura Fleischfresser, Matt Holton, Cable Lefto, Dave Long, Ben Michaels, Brent Newman, Bree Smith, Jesse Storms, Sarah Cry-Valento, and Brian Wu for being Kegstander level supporters of the A One Pint Stand Patreon. You've all shown incredible generosity, and I'm grateful for it. Cheers to you all. Once again, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Northbound Smokehouse and Brew Pub. They've got something for everyone in your friend group. Good food, great beer, fancy cocktails, and a fantastic staff. Next time you stop in, tell them A One Pint Stand sent you. With that, this has been another episode of A One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
Leslie, shout out, and she hooked me up, put me in touch with them, and they sent us 100 grams, if you can do the math, Mr. No Math. It's about 3 ounces.
That's 8 tons. 8 tons if you're, if you're looking at it.